Picture this, standing before the ancient pyramids, cruising the Nile at sunset, walking through temples that are thousands of years old. Egypt is a place where history comes to life. But so many people tell you, so many people told me, don't go. You've probably heard it too. It's dangerous, it's chaotic, it's overwhelming. But let me tell you, Egypt is so much more than the headlines. It is, after all, the most visited country in the whole of the African continent. The friendly locals, the jaw-dropping sights, the once-in-a-lifetime experiences. It's an adventure that redefines everything you thought you knew, and there's no country out there like it. So why let fear hold you back? Egypt is waiting, and trust me, you don't want to miss it. So come follow along and subscribe to see this 12-day itinerary of the best that Egypt has to offer. Of course, no trip to Egypt can start without first visiting the iconic Pyramids of Giza. Expect buses full of tourists and lots of people trying to sell you things, even a few potential scammers. You can watch the video I made about how to visit the pyramids without all of the hassles, including the best photo spots. My top suggestion, buy the ticket online and get there as early as possible, as soon as they open, before any of the crowds arrive. Fun fact, there are 9 pyramids, 9, not 3. Let me know if you get to see all of them once you go. They are over 4,500 years old, and for more than 4,000 years, they were the tallest man-made structures on Earth. The most touristy site in the country is worth a visit. You just have to know how to do it right. I mean, just look at this shot, my favorite from the whole trip. I set up a tripod and no one except for that guy in the camel was around. So the Pyramids of Giza were one of the 7 ancient wonders of the world, and the only one still standing today. Just the Great Pyramid itself took about 20 years to build, requiring tens of thousands of workers. They used ramps, sledges, and copper tools to shape and transport the stones. And no, it's not hollow. You can actually go inside. You have to pay extra to do so, and if you want to do it, make sure to get your ticket when you're at the main counter. And if you want to take any photography equipment inside, this is the part where you'll have to pay extra. Despite what some sellers might tell you, you don't have to pay extra anywhere else, only inside the pyramids. Are the pyramids impressive? Yes, and there's no doubt about it. But I've also met people who will only make a quick stop in Cairo for the pyramids and forgo the rest of the city. This was an absolutely crazy itinerary that managed to squeeze in a good chunk of the city in one day. Not for the faint of heart, but keep watching to find out. We then had about a 1-hour drive to get to our next stop, the Muhammad Ali Mosque, inside the citadel of Cairo. Keep in mind that Cairo is a city of over 20 million people, and traffic here is some of the worst in the world. This mosque was built between 1830 and 1848 by Muhammad Ali Pasha, who was the ruler of Egypt at the time and is often considered the founder of modern Egypt. He built it both as a place of worship and as a symbol of his power. He basically wanted to compete with the Ottoman mosques in Istanbul. It also serves as his tomb. Yes, he's actually buried here. But if you come, you will see that it was in fact inspired by the Blue Mosque in Istanbul, with its large dome and minarets. You'll have to remove your shoes, and there's one specific part of the mosque where women have to cover their heads. One of my go-to travel items as a woman is a shawl. I can use it whenever the AC is blasting, or simply to cover my head whenever needed. And then we made our way to Bab Zuwayla, a spot tourists often miss. It's actually one of the last remaining gates of the old part of the city, built back in the 11th century. And what's really cool is that it has 2 minarets on top, which were added in the 15th century, and you can climb these. And if you're not alone, split up and climb both minarets separately. The steps are really narrow, and even if you're scared of heights, like I am sometimes, I promise you the views are worth it. And why climb separately? So you can take pictures of each other, and you can see all of Cairo spread below you. And there's no excuse for you not to visit Bab Zuwayla because it's within walking distance of the Khan al-Halidi market, one of the main shopping areas in town. I did not take out my phone here, I just rested, took some tea with the girls, and waited for our next stop. We're off, about to take the overnight train from Cairo all the way south close to the border with
Sudan, and I'm so excited because, you know, once again, overnight train ride. Yes. So this is it, another overnight train ride, and I get the cabin all to myself because there are too many of us, and they booked an extra cabin. I'm not gonna lie, I love being with this group so far, but it's gonna be nice to get a place of my own for a night. We just got dinner. Let's see what. It's pretty good actually. The meat is really nice and tender, and so are the veggies. And yeah, I'll have some kanafe. I don't like kanafe with cheese. Apparently here in Egypt, they do not make it with cheese. At least most of them do not, which is a blessing in disguise. Because, look, I've tried the kanafe with cheese a million times. I just do not like it. I do not like it. I only got some Thai. The guy was super sweet, came in, asked me if I wanted a drink, coffee, tea before going to bed. And he'll set up the lower bed for me if I want to, or I can sleep on the upper bunk. It's up to me. But I was like, nope, just one, how many packs of sugar do you want? And I was like, one. He was like, no, you're sweet. You've got to. And I'm like, these Egyptians, they know how to flirt, let me tell you that. The guy came in, set up the ladder right here, and we're good to go. Going to bed. He could have set up the one down there, but I just wanted to keep my stuff there, and I'll just sleep up here. And that's it. And we should be arriving tomorrow, 9:30, 10, if there are no delays. But the conductor wakes everybody up with breakfast, so I think around 8 a.m. So let's see how it goes. Good night.
Good morning. I wish I could tell I slept super well. I did not. I think that's simply because I kept waking up. There's a lot on my mind. And I kept thinking that I overslept, which is not even a problem because I know the conductor is gonna wake me up. But yeah, just part of work. That's it's a little too hard for my taste. But that aside, you know what? Great way of traveling. You're literally just going through the night, and then when you wake up, well, you're not there because you think you still have like another 2 hours to go. But you know, up to you. I still love train rides. I still absolutely love long train rides. So I'm just really happy I finally got to do this one.
Go! Say hi, everybody! Hi!
So we took the train all the way down south to Aswan, and now we're staying at the Nubian village where we'll be dropping off our stuff before we visit the first of many, many temples throughout this trip.
This is the Temple of Philae. And the incredible thing about this temple is that back when they built the dam, this whole place flooded. You can see right here the markings of all the way of how high the water got. And so the temple was actually moved from, it took them 8 years to move the temple from that island back there, which I'm going to show you right now, all the way here. 8 years. From 1962 to 1970, it took them 8 years to move 40,000 pieces to be able to reconstruct this whole temple again. The beauty about this temple, besides the cats of course, is the fact that it's surrounded by the Nile. Let me show you right now. That is where the temple used to be, just 500 meters away. But the whole area is flooded now, and they had to move it right here. And you can see here how this was actually defaced by the Christians because they wanted to build church here. Fortunately, it's still standing. They didn't manage to destroy much. I mean, they still got away with some of it, but not everything. And you can see here how different it looks and how it was meant to look beginning. this is what it's supposed to look like.
To catch the sunset, we took a boat to one of the nearby islands. But here's a little warning: kids might try to hold on to your boat for fun or simply, unfortunately, to try and beg for money. So just something to keep in mind.
So we're going up now, and this is the highest viewpoint in the whole of Aswan. Closes it down at 5, but if you have a guide that has good connections here, you can stay here a little longer. So the idea is to make it here before the sun sets.
And after sunset, we went back to the Nubian village, where we had dinner, and of course, danced a little before going to bed. But I unfortunately don't have any videos of that. This was the temple I was most excited to visit. These massive temples were built by Pharaoh Ramses II around 1264 BC to show off his power and to impress or intimidate Egyptians' southern neighbors, the Nubians. There are actually 2 temples here. The Great Temple, dedicated to Ramses II himself and to a few gods, and then the smaller temple, which he dedicated to his favorite wife, Queen Nefertari. And it's one of the few temples in Egypt where a queen's statue is actually the same size as the king's.
Hello from the famous Abu Simbel temple in the southern part of Egypt, very close to the border of Sudan. Here is another incredible feat of architecture. So this temple right here, again, just like the dam that we spoke about yesterday, it was going to be completely left underwater, but this one was going to be a lot harder to move because there are no blocks. It's actually carved into the hill. So this was back in the 60s. So UNESCO, together with donations from all around the world, the international community came together to make sure that this here would be saved. And they actually carved out the rock in about 800 pieces and transferred it from what is the bottom of the lake, which I'll show you right now, all the way out here. It took them 4 years. How incredible is that? But the most amazing part of it all is to see how this was actually found. In 1817, someone came across the top of this statue right here, and they thought it was going to be a smaller statue. Never in their wildest dreams could they have imagined that that tiny part that they found was going to be dug out, and this was going to be discovered.
Just from Aswan, this is a few hours drive. People show up extremely early here, but if you want to beat the crowds, come right as the tour buses are leaving, around midday. Then it'll feel like you're getting both temples to yourself. In the insides, if you look closely, you can still see hieroglyphic carvings of the military victories. And if you find them, carvings of men and their obsessions with their lower organs, because it's been thousands of years and apparently they can't get over. And after Abu Simbel, in a few hours' drive, then we took a felucca down the Nile. A felucca is a traditional wooden sailing boat that's been used in the Nile for thousands of years. Now, most people just do a felucca ride for sunset. This was going to be different. 2 nights and 2 days sailing down the Nile, one large sleeping space. and us just hanging out with the locals that will help us get there. But first, a little dancing at the top of the
Welcome to Felucca. Welcome to Felucca.
Nope, there are no crocodiles left on this side of the Nile, especially after they built the dam. We get 3 meals a day, and then the rest of the day we're free to do whatever we want. It hasn't been particularly windy, and so we're basically stuck here. And what else is there better to do than to just enjoy our time here, do a little sunbathing, and of course, swimming.
We just swam in the Nile and it was incredibly refreshing.
And where were we stuck? The design hasn't really changed since ancient times. They still have triangular sails and no engines, just pure wind power, unless you want to add an engine to yours. Fun fact, the Egyptians used feluccas to transport goats and people up and down the Nile long before there were roads. And even today, locals still use them to cross between the east and the west banks. And something that I loved was actually seeing everyday life along the Nile. Fishermen casting their nets, kids playing by the riverbank, and farmers tending to their fields like they have been doing for thousands of years. This river has been the lifeline of Egypt for over 5,000 years, and without it, none of the temples, pyramids, or even modern cities that we all come to visit would exist.
So after spending 3 days and 2 nights, we're finally here. It was a really short ride. It was only around 45 kilometers. However, there's barely been any wind. And that's why it took so long. And that's completely fine. But we're here and we're off to say goodbye to the Nile and go off to our next destination, Luxor.
After the felucca, we got up at Kom Ombo. And here's a reminder to have an Egyptologist with you. If not, you'd be staring at temples without having the slightest clue of their significance. What made this temple so stunning, in my opinion, were the colors. Even after thousands of years, you could see how the walls had been painted, and that could give you a better idea, if your imagination is good enough, to see how it truly looked back then. This is one of those temples that was dedicated to 2 gods at the same time. One side of it is Horus, god of the sky, and the other half is to the crocodile god, who was also associated with fertility and the power of the Nile. And because it's dedicated to 2 gods, everything is double, 2 entrances, 2 halls, and it's all perfectly symmetrical. This temple also showcases surgical instruments and medical tools that the ancient Egyptians used then, and many of them are not that far off from what we use today. Just another example of how advanced they were.
This was referred to as a healing temple, and it still is today. So people who, have fertility problems, or people who have emotional problems, they want to get married, they want to solve any of the issues that they have going on in their life, still come here because of what this temple actually represents back then and even now.
And make sure to check out the Crocodile Museum. It's in the same complex. Kom Ombo was built here because the Nile in this area was infested with crocodiles, so people worshipped Sobek to keep them away. So they mummified crocodiles as offering. And some of them are massive! I'm glad they're not here anymore. And then we were in Luxor, which people call the world's greatest open-air museum, and it's easy to see why. Everywhere you turn, there are ancient temples, statues, tombs, and ruins, just scattered throughout the city in the desert. Over 3,000 years ago, this was the center of political power, religion, and art in the country, and the city split by the Nile. On the east banks, you have the temples dedicated to the gods, like Karnak Temple, which was the largest religious complex ever built, and it's the one I'm showing you now. And on the west bank, you have the Land of the Dead. In ancient Egyptian belief, the sun rose in the east, symbolizing life, and set in the west, symbolizing death and the afterlife, so temples for worship were built on the east banks and tombs on the west.
And we're right here in Karnak Temple. It's shutting down, so finally crowds are starting to dissipate. But I want you to see here, these are the steps that they used to build because nobody really knows how they put all of these stones all the way up there. But, you know, this is evidence that they used to build mud walls to try to put all the stones in place. It is so incredibly crowded in there. Tip, Tarnak, Luxor, you just, you gotta come here first thing in the morning. It opens at 6 up until 10 maybe. Starting off our morning in a very, very cool way. Off to do a balloon ride over the Valley of the Kings. Don't know if you can hear me. Last time, the one and only time I've ever done a balloon ride was in Hong Kong, and I had a full-blown panic attack, so I am literally drugged right now, and let's hope for the best. It's a video.
Oh.
Hello. Talia,
morning, world.
Mary.
Hello. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Good morning. For landing, they're gonna tell us which direction to do it in, but we gotta crouch. Obviously, I'm not gonna be using my phone, so this, hold on to this with both hands, and then we're good to go. From the balloon, we made our way to the Valley of the Kings. Mind you, had it not been for the balloon, we would have started earlier, but by the time we got there, it was absolutely packed. So sacrifice a day and visit other sites if you do the balloon ride, or do it all in a day, which is what we did. And these are the sites we saw from our balloon ride. So, what is the Valley of the Kings? This place was the royal burial ground for the pharaohs of the New Kingdom, which was around 3,000 years ago. And instead of building massive pyramids that were easily looted, they started hiding their tombs deep in the desert cliffs to protect them. Now, more than 60 tombs have been discovered here so far, including the most famous one, Tutankhamun's tomb, which was found almost completely intact back in 1922. It gets extremely, and I mean extremely hot. Take lots of water, because if not, you will be charged a fortune, like I was for a bottle of Gatorade for $10. On our last day before starting the second half of the trip, we spent time with a local family in Luxor. We explored their farm, saw their crops, and they even made fresh bread for us, served with tea, of course. It was such a wholesome way to end this part of the trip, and I loved being able to spend time with locals and see what life in life was here. And then we flew to Cairo for part 2. Rewind. We started in Cairo, then explored the southern part of the country around the Nile area, where most of the temples and tourist sites are located. Day 1 was a travel day, and so was day 8, together with our stay in the felucca. 8 days in total, but it can be done in 6. Now, it was time to drive all the way west, close to the border with Libya. No airports available. It's a 9 to 12 hour ride, depending on the time of the day. And nope, it's not for the faint of heart because of the checkpoints. This phase, because we spent the night in the van. My back is killing me. That's all I have to say. It's gonna be worth it, but I'm in pain. That's all I have to say. Good morning. Yesterday was mostly a travel day where we went from Luxor all the way to Cairo. We hung out for a few hours, and then we took this van overnight for 9 hours. 8-9 hours. And now we're here in Siwa. We're extremely close to the Libyan border, and we're gonna be hanging out here for the next few days, and we're staying at this amazing property. Let me give you a tour. Our accommodation was to die for. Think, I don't know, Tuscany somewhere in the middle of Egypt in an oasis. It was absolutely incredible, and I recommend you to stay in a place like this if you do end up having to go to sea. But of course, we're not here to chill, we're here to explore.
So next we headed deep into one of Egypt's most remote and unique places. And now just outside of time, you'll find the Hill of the Dead. And it's a limestone hill honeycombed with tombs. This is from around 600 BC. And from the top, of course, we could see the amazing views, and it's just interesting to think how we think of deserts, and we don't think that a desert could potentially look this way.
This tomb. It's so refreshing down here. Oh, I could just chill. Oh, this.
Are you just resting in there?
So, inside some of the tombs, you can still see colorful wall paintings of Egyptian gods like Osiris, Anubis, and Horus, which shows he was positioned as a cultural crossroads. Now, honestly, the heat was unbearable. It was absolutely unbearable, and that's why I was hiding in the cave. And I wish I could say I enjoyed myself as much as I wanted to, but honestly, I didn't. I think lack of sleep from the night before, combined with the unbearable heat and being under the sun, it was pretty intense, to be honest. So, just a tip from me.
The heat has been unbearable today. It's been really, really bad. So we are at the Chalet Fortress right now in Siwa, and we were supposed to stay here until sunset because the views from the top, they call this the palace, are pretty great. We're just gonna have to skip it. It's just too much to handle right now. It's November, which is the worst part.
So this is a mud brick citadel that once protected the entire community, and it was built in the 13th century by the local Berbers. It was using a material mixed of salt from the nearby lakes and mud. Now, it kept the fortress cool in the summer and warm in the winter. So this place actually housed hundreds of people, and some families lived inside as well right up until the 1920s, and then heavy rains badly damaged a lot of the structure. Now, again, great for sunset views, but make sure that you have some rest before and don't make the same mistakes that we did. I would highly, highly recommend coming for sunset. At least that's what everybody said. Now for our next day, we took it a little bit easier, and we should have done it the other way around. The day after the driving should have been the easy day, followed by going up the mountain or the Hill of the Dead. So we went out to the salt lakes, which were absolutely, absolutely beautiful. Here are some shots, which of course were taken by my amazing, lovely people that I was traveling with.
So have you ever seen videos of, pictures of people in Egypt? These beautiful salt lakes, salt pools. This is it. The funny thing is, this is actually a construction site. So, you know, Instagram versus reality. I'll show you the pictures later, but you can see all these like different machinery and whatnot. We're just on the flash of you know, it's a bit conservative out here. So, yeah, worth it. It's definitely fun. Although, like I said, it's strange to be in a construction site. We're basically swimming in a construction site. We had candles set up last night. That's not trash. That's from the candles. In the pool. Oh my god. Yes. Pool is nice and clean. Ready for us to use.
And in the evening, not only did we prepare a bonfire, but the locals we were with actually decided to surprise us with food cooked under the sand. So, food is wrapped in foil, leaves, placed in special pots, and then buried in hot sand where a fire has been burning, and the heat from the sand and the coal slowly cook the food, almost like an underground oven. And in desert environments where wood of stoves are scarce, this method uses natural resources to retain and distribute the heat evenly. This is amazing because digging the food out of the sand feels like uncovering a hidden treasure. And this is a tradition that's been going on for centuries.
It's not Cairo, but we're about to ride our bikes in the middle of Egyptian traffic. Let's see how this goes.
There are one or two shops downtown that can rent bikes, and I would highly recommend you do this. It is amazing to just drive through the palm trees and then of course eventually make it to one of the little cafes, and I would highly recommend you come here and you can chill at the cafe after going for a swim at Cleopatra Spring. Bye bye! Hello, bye bye!
Dude, that looks so cool.
So one of the best activities to do in the Siwa region is to do sand dune bashing. Now, some of you might have done this in Dubai, for example. That was a joke compared to this. This was pretty intense, but what I did like about it was that it allowed us to stop at different parts, oases in the region that we could visit, chill, and see where the locals hang out, basically.
So we're close to the Libyan border, and they call this the wide desert because of the rock formations, and there's tons of fossils all over the place. And according to our driver, some of these are around 30 million years old because this was all covered by the ocean once upon a time.
Sand dune bashing was definitely not for me because I was feeling extremely carsick afterwards. Please take pills before doing so. And towards the end we had already finished, so we decided to just sit down, chill, have fun in the sand dunes, and most importantly enjoy some tea and watch the sunset.
So apparently there are 100 candles lighting up this whole campsite, and we have the whole campsite to ourselves. And this is it. This is our last night. So that's what it is, but it's been absolutely incredible. They're zipped, so there was like...
We got up really early in the morning because we have to drive back to Cairo. So if you're driving in the nighttime, it's about 9 hours. If you're driving during the day, because of the checkpoints, it's usually around 12. So we had a long day ahead of us. But the important thing, and the part that I love the most, was that we made a few stops. And most importantly, we drove along the Mediterranean coast. Stopped in Alexandria to have a little lunch. And then it was time to unload our bags from the van and slowly start saying goodbye to everybody before we all went back to our separate homes. And that's a wrap on this incredible 12-day journey through Egypt. From the ancient temples of Luxor, to the amazing pyramids, to the peaceful oasis of Siwa, to sharing bread and tea with local families. Traveling here has been such a reminder of how much culture, history, and hospitality you can find in every corner of this country. If we haven't met yet, I'm Siwa, a slow traveler who's been exploring the world for years, always looking for authentic experiences and the real stories behind the places I visit. So if you're into a meaningful travel and want to see more authentic adventures from around the world, make sure to hit that subscribe button and join me on my next journey.